My beloved child, I have been watching the silence around you, and it has not gone unnoticed. This moment is not random. This message did not arrive by accident. I am Archangel Michael, and I speak now because heaven itself has been leaning toward you for days, waiting for the exact second your spirit would be ready to hear what your ears have avoided. This is not a rebuke. This is a summons, and it is urgent. Beloved, where have you been? For over 7 days, there has been applause in the spiritual realm around your name. Not emptiness, anticipation. Doors stood half open. Answers hovered just outside your awareness. You felt it, didn't you? That strange pressure in your chest. That sense that something important was unfinished. You tried to distract yourself, to keep moving, to treat it lightly. But the weight followed you, because truth does not disappear when ignored. Everyone around you already knows something you have not allowed yourself to face. Conversation stopped when you entered the room. Energy shifted. You sensed whispers without hearing words. This is not paranoia. This is discernment knocking, again and again, while you delayed. Heaven had been patient, but patience does not mean permission to waste time. Listen carefully now. What I am about to reveal connects directly to why you have felt stuck, delayed, and unusually tired. It explains why progress slowed even when effort increased. It explains why your prayers felt unanswered, not because they were unheard, but because you were standing inches away from the answer while looking in the opposite direction. Beloved, this is the part many miss. Spiritual warnings rarely arrive with noise. They arrive with repetition. The same feeling, the same sign, the same inner nudge. You told yourself later. You said, I'll deal with it when things calm down. But time was not your ally in this matter. Time was the test. I, Archangel Michael, do not speak to entertain. I stand for truth, order, and protection. When I come forward like this, it is because something hidden has reached its limit. A truth has matured. A veil has thinned. And delay now carries consequences. Not punishment, but loss of opportunity. There is someone connected to your daily life who has been operating in half-truths. Not everything they have said is false, but not everything have been clean. You sensed inconsistency but dismissed it out of loyalty, comfort, or fear of disruption. You did not want to appear dramatic. You did not want to be wrong. So you chose peace over clarity. But peace built on avoidance does not last. Do not panic. This message is not here to harm you. It is here to protect you before exposure happens in a way you cannot control. When truth comes by force, it feels harsh. When truth comes by obedience, it feels like relief. You are still in the window where obedience can soften what is coming. Beloved, hear this with seriousness but not fear. You have already wasted enough time doubting your inner knowing. Every delay has cost you energy. Every excuse has drained your confidence. Heaven has been waiting, not because it was slow, but because you needed to arrive at a place where excuses no longer satisfy you. This is why the message feels intense. Intensity does not mean threat. It means importance. You are standing at a fork where one path preserves comfort and the other preserves destiny. Comfort whispers, it's not that deep. Destiny says, you already know. You not treat this like a joke. Not because I am offended, but because minimizing truth shrinks your authority. You were not created to live confused. You were not designed to constantly second-guess what your spirit already recognizes. Ignoring this moment does not erase the truth. It only delays your alignment with it. Archangel Michael stands as a guardian of thresholds. And right now, You are standing at one. Step forward with awareness, or remain circling the same lessons disguised as different days. Heaven has marked this moment because once you see clearly, you cannot unsee. And once you choose clearly, things will begin to move quickly. Something is about to be revealed, either gently through wisdom or abruptly through circumstance. The choice of how it unfolds is still yours. That is why this message reached you now and not later. Take a breath. Let the weight settle. Do not rush to conclusions, but do not retreat into denial. The next words you hear after this will matter. The next decision you make will echo. And the next message will go even deeper than this one. If this stirred something in you, it is because your spirit recognizes my voice. My chosen one, listen closely now, because what unfolds next requires maturity of spirit. The first stirring you felt was not the message itself, but the knock before the door opens. What I speak now is heavier, not because it brings fear, but because it brings responsibility. Awareness changes things. Once truth begins to rise, neutrality is no longer possible. You have been sensing resistance in small, almost invisible ways. Plans that should have flowed became complicated. Words you meant kindly were misunderstood. Sleep came, but rest did not. These were not random frustrations. They were signals. Heaven was slowing you down on purpose, not to block you, but to prevent you from walking further while misaligned. There is a pattern you have repeated, beloved. When clarity approaches, you delay action. When confrontation is required, you choose silence. You call it patience, wisdom, or kindness. But deep inside, you knew it was hesitation. Not because you are weak, but because you care deeply about maintaining harmony. Yet harmony without honesty becomes a quiet prison. I, Archangel Michael, have watched you carry burdens that were never assigned to you. You absorbed moods, fixed situations, and protected others from consequences that were meant to teach them. In doing so, you unknowingly go upon your own amendment. This is why heaven intervenes now. Balance must be restored. The truth everyone knows except you is not a single dramatic secret. It is subtler, and that is why it lasted so long. It is about intention versus appearance. Someone has benefited from your patience while avoiding full transparency. They did not expect you to remain unaware forever, only long enough to serve their convenience. And you felt this imbalance but questioned yourself instead of the situation. Beloved, discernment is not accusation. Seeing clearly does not make you cruel. It makes you prepared. You were never asked to tolerate confusion as proof of love. You were asked to walk in light. Light reveals, not to shame, but to correct direction. Now hear this carefully. The delay of 7 days was not symbolic only. It was merciful. Heaven gave space for voluntary truth to surface, for honesty to arrive without pressure. That window is closing. What was once optional is becoming inevitable, and inevitability feels louder. This is why urgency wraps around this message. Not because you are late to life, but because timing matters when consequences branch. Act too early, and you lack information. Act too late, and you lose choice. You are precisely in the narrow place where listening deeply will spare you regret. You may feel the instinct to rewatch this, to reread signs from the past, to connect moments that once felt isolated. That instinct is correct. Reflection now will save you explanation later. Do not rush to confront, but do not continue pretending nothing is wrong. As this message reaches others, I ask you to do something simple yet powerful. Let this truth travel. When you engage with it, by liking, sharing, or commenting, You are not boosting a video. You are signaling readiness. Alignment responds to action. When you subscribe and stay connected, you keep your spirit positioned to receive clarity as it unfolds. This is not about numbers. It is about agreement. Speak your acknowledgement, even briefly. A simple comment anchors awareness into reality. Silence keeps things internal. Expression activates movement. This is how spiritual shifts begin, quietly, then decisively. Beloved, do not underestimate the next 48 hours. Conversations will carry double meaning. Intuition will sharpen. Dreams may become vivid. You may notice someone revealing more through what they avoid than what they say. This is not coincidence. This is unveiling. Stay calm. Calm is your power. You do not need to accuse, test, or trap. Truth does not require interrogation. It reveals itself naturally when light is present. Your role is not to force exposure, but to stop shielding what no longer deserves protection. I stand with a sword not to threaten, but to separate truth from illusion. That sword is discernment, and it is now in your hands. Use it gently but firmly. What comes next will require courage, but not confrontation yet. First comes understanding, then alignment, then action. If you rush ahead, you will miss the wisdom embedded in this stage. Hold steady. What you are about to realize will explain the exhaustion, the delays, and the inner conflict you have felt for weeks. And when it clicks, it will feel less like shock and more like confirmation. The door is opening wider now. Stay present. My beloved one, now the veil begins to thin in a way you cannot unfeel. What you sensed as tension was preparation. What you experienced as delay was protection. And what you are stepping into now is not confusion, but clarity taking form. This is the moment where truth no longer whispers from the background, but starts aligning events around you. I, Archangel Michael, speak now with steadiness, because your spirit is strong enough to hold what comes next. You are not being singled out for trouble. You are being singled out for awakening. The reason this truth waited until now is because earlier, you would have questioned yourself too much. You would have excused what needed to be examined. But something has shifted in you. You are no longer willing to live half-aware. Over the past days, your inner voice has grown louder. You noticed discomfort where there should have been ease. You felt drained after interactions that once felt normal. This was not emotional instability. This was your discernment recalibrating. Heaven was tuning your senses so you could finally recognize a balance without guilt. The truth everyone knows except you has lived in plain sight, hidden behind familiarity. Familiarity dulls perception. When something becomes routine, we stop questioning it. That is how misalignment survives, not through power, but through repetition. And you were loyal to repetition longer than you should have been. But loyalty is only holy when it flows both ways. When effort becomes one-sided, heaven takes notice. When honesty is partial, light begins to press in. You have been generous with understanding, but slow to demand clarity. That season is ending. You may soon recall moments you brushed aside. A sentence that did not add up. A reaction that felt rehearsed. A silence that lasted too long. These memories are surfacing now not to accuse, but to inform. Information restores authority. Authority restores peace. Do not rush to expose. Exposure is not your assignment. Alignment is. When you align internally with truth, circumstances rearrange externally without force. What is not meant to stay will lose its grip naturally. What is false cannot remain stable in light. There is a reason this message feels personal. Heaven does not broadcast urgency without cause. The reason you were called to hear this is because the next chapter of your life requires sharper boundaries and cleaner connections. You cannot carry yesterday's compromises into tomorrow's calling. Pay attention to how people respond when you become clearer. Some will relax. Some will resist. Resistance is information. You do not need to argue with it. Simply observe. Observation is power when paired with patience. And hear this clearly, beloved. This moment is not about anger. It is about respect, self-respect, spiritual respect, and respect for truth. When you stop tolerating confusion, clarity rushes in to replace it. If you feel a strong pull to continue listening, honor it. This unfolding matters more than you realize right now. Hold on, because what follows next will connect everything you have been questioning. Before this message closes, receive this activation with intention. Type "I receive the truth" with courage in the comments if this resonates with your spirit. Blessing code 909 has just been released. As this truth is being revealed to you, there are countless others still walking unaware, still delayed, still doubting their discernment. I am speaking through this channel to reach them before exposure finds them unprepared. When you release support through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, linked in the description, you are not funding content, you are sowing light into hidden places. The word says, "I give seed to the sower," and today I am speaking that directly to you. This is your moment to turn revelation into action. Do not delay obedience. Plant now, and watch heaven multiply what you release. I bless every hand that gives with clarity, protection, and accelerated alignment. Act now, and let your obedience become someone else's awakening. Remain still for what comes next. Beloved, now that truth has begun to surface within you, the atmosphere around you will respond differently. This is the stage where awareness quietly changes how people show up. Nothing dramatic needs to happen for everything to shift. Sometimes the most powerful turning points arrive without announcement, without conflict, without noise. They arrive as a subtle clarity that cannot be undone. I, Archangel Michael, speak now to prepare you for what follows: discernment. When light enters, it does not only reveal others, it reveals you to yourself. You may notice that certain tolerances no longer sit well with your spirit. Situations you once excused now feel heavy. Conversations that once flowed now feel shallow. This is not because you are becoming distant. It is because you are becoming aligned. Do not confuse this with isolation. Alignment often feels lonely at first because you are stepping out of patterns that kept you familiar to others, but disconnected from yourself. Familiarity creates comfort, but clarity creates growth. You are transitioning from one to the other. There will be moments where you feel tempted to go back to how things were, simply because it feels easier. Ease, however, is not always peace. Peace carries clarity. Ease often carries avoidance. You are no longer built for avoidance. Your spirit has outgrown it. You may notice someone attempting to pull you back into old dynamics through guilt, nostalgia, or subtle pressure. This is not necessarily manipulation. Often, people resist change simply because it exposes what they have avoided. When you shift, the mirror shifts. Not everyone welcomes that reflection. Remain calm. Your calm will be misunderstood as distance, but it is actually strength. You do not owe anyone the version of you that survived confusion. You owe yourself the version of you that walks in truth. This stage is about restraint. Not restraint of truth, but restraint of reaction. You do not need to explain everything you are realizing. Explanation invites debate. Clarity requires no defense. Let your steadiness speak. Watch how circumstances begin to organize themselves. Delays you once faced may lift. Opportunities may appear without effort. Or, in some cases, things may temporarily feel unsettled. Do not misinterpret this. When foundations adjust, movement happens. Trust the process. Beloved, you are being trained to discern without fear. Fear rushes. Discernment observes. Fear reacts. Discernment waits. You are stepping into the latter. This is why heaven trusts you with deeper awareness now. There is something important you must remember. Truth does not always demand immediate action, but it always demands acknowledgement. You have acknowledged. That alone has shifted the trajectory. What happens next will unfold step by step, not all at once. If at any moment you feel overwhelmed, return to stillness. Stillness is not inactivity. It is alignment without noise. In stillness, intuition sharpens. In noise, intuition scatters. You may begin to sense a separation occurring, not necessarily physical, but energetic. Certain conversations may naturally decrease. Certain invitations may fade. This is not loss. This is pruning. Pruning feels uncomfortable only because growth is imminent. I stand near you now not with urgency, but with assurance. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where you need to be to choose wisely. The time you thought you wasted was actually building discernment. Nothing hath been lost that was meant to stay. Let this truth settle deeper. You are not responsible for maintaining illusions for others. You are responsible for honoring truth within yourself. When you do that, alignment follows without force. As this awareness stabilizes, you will feel less reactive and more grounded. Decisions will come easier. Boundaries will feel natural rather than forced. This is the sign that clarity is taking root. Do not rush ahead mentally. The next unfolding will come through lived experience, not just insight. Stay present. Stay observant. Stay steady. Heaven is not finished speaking, but for now, let what has been revealed breathe within you. My beloved child, now you enter a quieter but more decisive phase. What has been revealed inside you will begin to test its strength in the real world. This is where many grow impatient, thinking nothing is happening, when in truth everything is rearranging beneath the surface. Roots grow in silence. Foundations settle before structures rise. I, Archangel Michael, want you to understand this clearly. Awareness without embodiment creates frustration, but awareness with patience creates authority. You are learning how to carry truth without needing immediate validation. This is a sacred skill, and it is being formed in you now. You may notice that your reactions are slower, more deliberate. Where you once felt compelled to explain yourself, you now feel an inner pause. That pause is wisdom. It is the space where discernment speaks before emotion takes the lead. Do not rush to fill that space. Let it guide you. There will be moments when old patterns attempt to reassert themselves. A familiar message, a repeated behavior, a situation that looks exactly like something you already questioned. This is not a setback. This is confirmation. Life is showing you the contrast so you can recognize growth. What once confused you will now feel obvious. Beloved, you are beginning to see clearly who meets you in truth and who meets you in convenience. This distinction may feel uncomfortable at first, because it challenges your desire to keep everyone comfortable. But comfort is not your assignment. Clarity is. You may feel a strange mix of relief and grief. Relief because your intuition was right. Grief because clarity sometimes reveals that things were never as mutual as you hoped. Allow both feelings to exist without judgment. Grief does not mean you were wrong to care. It means you cared deeply. Do not harden your heart in response to this realization. Softness paired with boundaries is strength. You are not being called to withdraw love, but to redirect it wisely. Love without truth drains. Love with truth strengthens. At this stage, silence becomes an ally. Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence of observation. Watch how people respond to your steadiness. Watch what changes when you stop overgiving. Watch what remains when you stop carrying what was never yours. Some connections will adjust and grow healthier. Others may fade without confrontation. Both outcomes are correct. Not everything needs closure through words. Some things close through clarity alone. You may also notice an increase in your sensitivity, not emotional fragility, but perceptiveness. You will sense intentions more quickly. You will feel when something is off without needing evidence. This is discernment maturing. Trust it, but do not weaponize it. Discernment is for guidance, not control. Beloved, hear this reassurance. You are not responsible for how others handle the truth you are embodying. You are only responsible for staying aligned with it. If someone becomes distant because you are clearer, that distance is information, not rejection. In this phase, rest becomes important. Your spirit has processed a lot. Fatigue does not mean weakness. It means integration is happening. Give yourself permission to slow down where possible. Stillness will help clarity settle deeper. Do not seek constant confirmation from others. External validation will lag behind internal alignment. People adjust slower than truth. Let that be okay. Your peace does not need consensus. You are also being taught restraint in speech. Not everything you know needs to be said immediately. Timing matters. Wisdom knows when silence protects more than words. When the moment comes to speak, it will feel calm, not urgent. I stand watchfully as you learn this balance. This is not the season of dramatic moves. It is the season of subtle power, quiet confidence, internal order. These qualities prepare you for what comes next. Remember this, beloved. Truth does not rush, and neither should you. What is meant to change you will change you without force. What is meant to stay will withstand clarity. You do not need to test either. As you move through the coming days, stay grounded. Eat, rest, breathe, live your life. Do not obsess over signs. Awareness does not require fixation. Trust that what needs to surface will surface naturally. You are doing better than you think. The fact that you are still here, still listening, still open, is proof that alignment is taking root. Continue forward with steadiness. The next unfolding will bring understanding that feels like peace, not pressure. Remain present. The journey is progressing exactly as it should. Beloved soul, this is the stage where inner alignment begins to influence outer movement. What you have stabilized within yourself will now start echoing through your environment. This is not coincidence, and it is not imagination. Alignment creates momentum. When your spirit stands firm, reality adjusts its posture around you. I, Archangel Michael, speak now to anchor you, because this phase can feel deceptively ordinary. Nothing dramatic announces itself. Life continues. Routines remain. Yet beneath the surface, lines are shifting. Decisions are forming. Outcomes are being shaped quietly. Many abandon awareness here because they expect fireworks. But wisdom recognizes subtlety as power. You may notice that situations which once drained you now reveal their true cost more clearly. You are no longer confused about why certain interactions leave you tired. You are no longer questioning whether your feelings are valid. This is discernment becoming instinct. When instinct aligns with truth, hesitation dissolves. There is also a new firmness in you. Not hardness, but solidity. You are less easily persuaded, less reactive to emotional pulls, less willing to explain yourself endlessly. This firmness may surprise those who benefited from your flexibility. Some may test it. Others may ignore it. Neither response should move you. Beloved, this is where boundaries begin to speak louder than words. You do not need to announce them. You only need to live them. When you stop overextending, when you pause before responding, when you choose clarity over convenience, the message is delivered without confrontation. You may feel a slight discomfort as you practice this. Growth often feels like unfamiliar posture. You are learning to stand differently. Muscles you did not know you had are activating. This takes time. Be patient with yourself. At this stage, your attention becomes precious. Where you place it will determine how quickly alignment manifests. Do not scatter it across worry, speculation, or replaying conversations. Keep it grounded in the present. The present is where your authority lies. You are also being invited to participate actively in this moment of awakening. When you engage with this message, by liking, sharing, or speaking through a comment, you are not performing a task. You are declaring agreement. Agreement strengthens alignment. When you subscribe and remain connected, you keep yourself positioned to receive clarity as it unfolds rather than after it has passed. This is also a season of encouragement, not just for yourself, but for others who are awakening quietly. When you share this message, you act as a signal to those who are still questioning their discernment. Light multiplies when it is shared. Beloved, do not underestimate the power of simple actions done with intention. Heaven responds to movement. Even small gestures create spiritual traction. This is how momentum builds. You may also begin to sense a release happening. Emotional weight lifting. Mental noise quieting. A subtle peace replacing tension. This is not the absence of challenges. It is the presence of alignment. Alignment does not remove complexity. It removes confusion. If something ends during this time, an expectation, a dynamic, a role you played, do not mourn it excessively. What ends now does so because it cannot move forward with you. Carrying it would slow you down. Remember, beloved, you are not losing people. You are losing patterns. People who are meant to walk with you will adjust. Patterns that relied on your silence will collapse. You may also experience moments of doubt. That is natural. Doubt does not erase truth. It simply asks for reassurance. When doubt arises, return to what you know, not what you fear. What you know has been confirmed repeatedly. Trust that. I stand watchful during this phase because it is formative. How you respond now will shape how smoothly the next transition occurs. Calm choices create calm outcomes. Right choices create unnecessary resistance. You are learning to move without rushing, to decide without forcing, to speak without defending. These are signs of maturity. Honor them. As this message continues, deeper understanding is coming, understanding that will connect your past delays with future acceleration. This next unfolding will clarify why timing mattered so much and why patience protected you. Hold steady. You will want to hear what comes next, because this is where everything begins to make sense. My beloved child, you are now standing in a place where understanding begins to link your past, your present, and what is forming ahead of you. This is not revelation that overwhelms. It is revelation that settles. The restlessness you once felt is being replaced by something quieter and stronger, recognition. You are starting to recognize yourself again, not as you were shaped by circumstances, but as you were designed to be. I, Archangel Michael, speak now to affirm what is stabilizing within you. The reason things feel different is because you are no longer negotiating with truth. Before, you entertained it, questioned it, postponed it. Now you are standing with it. This changes how life responds to you. When truth has a backbone, reality takes it seriously. You may notice that memories from your past are surfacing in a new light. Situations you once blamed on yourself now reveal clearer context. You are seeing where you carried responsibility that was never yours. This is not meant to stir regret. It is meant to release misplaced guilt. Guilt kept you small. Understanding sets you free. Beloved, there is a maturity forming in how you interpret experiences. You are no longer asking, "What did I do wrong?" at your first response. Instead, you are asking, "What was this teaching me?" That shift alone changes everything. Lessons no longer feel like punishments. They become preparation. This is also the phase where your intuition begins to feel calm rather than urgent. Earlier, intuition came as discomfort, pressure, and unrest. Now it comes as clarity, certainty, and quiet confidence. This is a sign that alignment has moved from warning mode into guidance mode. You are no longer being alerted. You are being led. Do not underestimate how significant this is. Many people remain stuck in constant internal alarms, mistaking anxiety for discernment. You are moving beyond that. You are learning to trust what you sense without panic. This is a higher level of awareness. You may also observe that your desire to prove yourself is fading. You no longer feel compelled to justify your choices to everyone. You are becoming selective with your explanations, not because you are hiding, but because you understand that not everyone needs access to your process. Privacy is not secrecy. It is wisdom. Beloved, this is where your energy begins to conserve itself. You are no longer here through overthinking, over-explaining, or overgiving. Energy saved becomes focus. Purpose becomes momentum. Momentum becomes progress. You might feel a growing sense of anticipation, not anxious anticipation, but readiness. Like something aligning into place. This is because the internal resistance that once delayed movement had been removed. What remains now is timing, not confusion. Trust that timing. You not rush to do something just to feel productive. Action will come naturally, almost effortlessly, when the moment is right. Forced movement would only reintroduce the very friction you have just been released from. I want you to hear this clearly. You did not miss your chance. Nothing meaningful has passed you by. What was delayed for refinement, not denial. You are arriving at your next stage with sharper discernment and stronger boundaries than you would have had before. There is also a strengthening happening in how you handle disappointment. You are no longer collapsing inward when expectations fall short. You are adjusting upward with grace. This is resilience built on truth, not on endurance alone. As this stage unfolds, your relationships with yourself deepens. You listen more closely to your needs. You honor your limits. You rest without guilt. These are not small changes. They are foundational shifts that will affect every area of your life going forward. You may find yourself drawn to simplicity. Less noise. Less drama. Less explanation. More substance. More presence. More peace. This is alignment expressing itself through preference. Follow it. I stand beside you now not as a warning voice, but as a steady presence. You are no longer being corrected. You are being confirmed. This distinction matters. Irradiance opens. Confirmation strengthens. What is coming next will not require you to abandon who you are. It will require you to trust who you have become. The clarity you now carry is not temporary. It is earned. It is integrated. It will guide you well. Stay grounded in this awareness. The next unfolding will bring an opportunity that tests not your discernment, but your confidence in it. And that is where true alignment is proven. Remain steady. You are closer than you think. My beloved child, this is the moment where alignment begins to produce visible consequences. Not loud ones, not dramatic ones, but undeniable ones. You may not announce what has changed inside you, yet others will feel it. Presence speaks before words, and your presence has shifted. I, Archangel Michael, speak now because this stage requires steadiness more than strength. What is unfolding does not need force. It means consistency. You are being invited to live from truth, not just recognize it. Living from truth is quieter, but far more powerful. You may notice that situations are now responding to you differently. People pause before speaking. Requests come with more respect, where they stop coming altogether. Opportunities feel cleaner, less complicated. This is not luck. This is alignment adjusting the environment around you. At the same time, something else may happen. Certain illusions may dissolve on their own. What once seemed promising may lose its appeal. What once felt necessary may feel optional. This can feel unsettling if you are attached to outcomes, but liberating if you are attached to truth. Beloved, do not cling to what no longer resonates simply because it once mattered. Gratitude honors the past. Attachment traps the future. You are allowed to move forward without resentment or regret. There is also a test embedded in this phase. It is subtle. You may be tempted to explain yourself again, to soften your clarity, to make others comfortable. You may feel the urge to return to old roles because they feel familiar. This is not failure. This is the final echo of a pattern losing its grip. Choose clarity gently but firmly. You do not need to correct anyone. You do not need to justify your growth. Simply continue living aligned. Truth does not argue. It demonstrates. You may also feel a deeper connection with yourself emerging. Your decisions feel cleaner. Your yes feels intentional. Your no feels peaceful. This is internal order taking root. When internal order exists, external chaos loses influence. Beloved, this is the stage where faith becomes embodied. Not faith as belief, but faith as posture. You stand differently. You weigh differently. You respond differently. You trust without needing constant reassurance. If you sense a pull toward stillness, honor it. Stillness now is not withdrawal. It is integration. Your spirit is settling into its new position. Let it. You are also becoming more aware of how words carry weight. You choose them more carefully. You speak less but with more impact. This is not silence born of fear. It is speech refined by wisdom. I want you to remember this truth. Not everything that ends was meant to continue. Not everything that fades was meant to last. Some things step aside simply because you are ready to walk further. Now receive this activation with intention, because this moment marks a turning point. Type "I walk in clear alignment" in the comments if your spirit receives this. Blessing code 1144 is now released over your discernment, your decisions, and your direction. As truth settles into you, understand that this message is reaching others who are still doubting their inner voice, still delaying obedience, still carrying confusion that does not belong to them. When you release support through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, linked in the description, you become a carrier of light for them. The word declares that when you sow generously, you reap in season, and I speak that promise directly over you now. This is not a donation, it is a prophetic response. Move now. Support the spreading of truth while your spirit is aligned. I bless every giver with multiplied clarity, guarded peace, and doors opening without struggle. Obey promptly, and let your obedience become provision for many. Stay steady. What comes next will require you to trust the clarity you now carry, even when it asks you to step forward without full visibility. Beloved, now you are entering a space where trust must mature into confidence. This is not the confidence of noise or display, but the quiet assurance that no longer needs constant signs to move forward. You have already received confirmation after confirmation. At this point, hesitation would not come from lack of information, but from fear of change. And I speak now to dissolve that fear gently, not forcefully. I, Archangel Michael, stand with you at this threshold because what unfolds next will ask you to rely on what you know internally, even when the outer world remains temporarily ambiguous. This is where many people pause again, waiting for everything to be perfectly clear before acting. But clarity does not always arrive first on the outside. Often, it settles inside long before circumstances catch up. You may notice that you are less emotionally reactive than before. Situations that once triggered anxiety now feel manageable. Conversations that once unsettled you no longer linger in your mind. This does not mean you care less. It means you are anchored. Anchored people do not drift with every wave. At the same time, there may be moments where uncertainty tries to return. A thought asking, what if I'm wrong? A feeling wondering, what if I should wait longer? Understand this, beloved. Discernment is not the absence of questions. It is the ability to move forward without being ruled by them. You have already done the waiting. You have already done the observing. You have already done the inner work. Now comes the phase of integration through choice. Small choices. Simple choices. Honest choices. These are not dramatic decisions that change everything overnight. They are consistent alignments that reshape your path over time. You may feel drawn to simplify your life further. Simplify conversations. Simplify commitments. Simplify expectations. This is not withdrawal. It is refinement. When clarity increases, excess naturally falls away. Beloved, do not be surprised if people begin to treat you differently without being able to explain why. Your energy no longer invites confusion. It invites respect. Even those who resist it will feel the shift, though they may not name it. There is also a deeper peace emerging, but it is a peace that coexists with responsibility. You are no longer waiting to be rescued from confusion. You are walking out of it with awareness. This is spiritual maturity. I want to address something important here. There may still be unanswered questions, loose ends, conversations that never happen, apologies that were never offered. Do not let unfinished business tempt you back into old dynamics. Closure does not always come through interaction. Sometimes it comes through understanding. You are allowed to move forward even if others remain where they are. You are allowed to choose clarity even if it makes some uncomfortable. You are allowed to honor truth without waiting for permission. This is not selfishness. This is stewardship of your discernment. You may also sense an internal strengthening of faith. Not faith that everything will be easy, but faith that you can handle what comes next. This distinction matters. Confidence grows when you trust your capacity, not just outcomes. Beloved, remember how far you have come in such a short span. What once felt heavy now feels manageable. What once felt confusing now feels clear enough to move. This is progress. Quiet, real progress. As you continue, pay attention to what feels aligned rather than what feels impressive. Alignment brings sustainability. Impressiveness often brings exhaustion. You are no longer meant to exhaust yourself to prove worth. I stand near you now, not to warn, but to witness. Witness you choosing differently. Witness you responding calmly. Witness you trusting your inner knowing. This stage is less about learning something new and more about applying what you already know. And application is where wisdom becomes visible. Do not rush ahead mentally. Do not rehearse outcomes prematurely. Stay grounded in the step directly in front of you. If you feel the pull to keep listening, honor it. What follows connects this inner confidence with an external shift that will soon make everything undeniable. Hold on. This is where the unfolding takes a turn that explains why this entire journey was necessary. Beloved child, you have reached a point where movement begins to show itself in tangible ways. This is not sudden chaos, nor is it instant reward. It is alignment expressing itself through opportunity, separation, and redirection. Things begin to respond because you have changed how you respond to truth. Life mirrors posture. I, Archangel Michael, speak now because this phase can feel deceptively simple, yet it carries weight. You may think, this feels normal. But what feels normal now would have felt impossible to you not long ago. Peace used to be rare. Now it is familiar. That alone tells you how far you have come. You may notice that choices present themselves more clearly. A lot more options, but clearer ones. You instinctively know what aligns and what does not. Decisions no longer drain you the way they once did. This is because you are no longer fighting yourself internally. Inner agreement creates outer ease. There is also a refinement happening in your voice. When you speak with less emotion and more truth. You do not need to raise your tone to be heard. Authority does not shout. It resonates. This may surprise people who were used to negotiating with your uncertainty. Beloved, this is where others begin to adjust consciously or unconsciously. Some will step up. Some will step back. Some will reveal where they truly stand. Do not take this personally. People respond to clarity based on their own readiness, not your worth. Your task is not to manage their reactions. Your task is to remain aligned. At this stage, you may feel a desire to share what you are learning, not to convince, but to connect. When you feel that nudge, honor it. When you like, share, or comment on this message, you are not just interacting. You are affirming alignment. Engagement is agreement, and agreement accelerates movement. If this message has walked with you through confusion into clarity, stay connected. Subscribe, remain present, and allow the unfolding to continue. Alignment is not a single moment. It is a process, and processes require consistency. Beloved, do not underestimate how your consistency is already shaping outcomes. You are responding rather than reacting. You are observing rather than assuming. You are choosing rather than drifting. These are powerful shifts. You may also feel an urge to clean things up, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Clearing space is a natural response to clarity. When truth settles in, excess begins to feel heavy. Follow that instinct gently. Release without force. There may be moments where old doubts try to reappear, whispering familiar questions. Understand this. Doubt often makes one last attempt when it senses it no longer has influence. Its presence does not mean it has power. Let it pass without engagement. I want you to recognize something important here. You are no longer in the phase of being warned. You are in the phase of being trusted. Trusted with discernment. Trusted with timing. Trusted with choice. Heaven does not rush those it trusts. It guides them. You may soon notice an external shift that feels like confirmation. A conversation. An opening. A realization that arrives without effort. When it comes, receive it calmly. Every action is unnecessary. You already knew this moment was coming. Beloved, this is where gratitude becomes important. Not gratitude that denies difficulty, but gratitude that acknowledges growth. Take a moment to recognize how differently you are navigating life now. This awareness stabilizes alignment. As this message continues to reach others, remember that clarity shared multiplies. When you help spread this message, you are not amplifying a voice. You are amplifying truth. And truth travels where it is welcomed. I remain near you as this phase unfolds. You are not being pushed forward. You are being walked forward. The next unfolding will reveal why your steadiness mattered more than speed and why patience prepared you for what is now stepping into view. Stay present. You are exactly where you need to be. My beloved child, you are now approaching a moment where inner certainty begins to meet external confirmation. This is not the loud arrival you once imagined, but a steady alignment that feels almost inevitable. What once required effort now requires trust. You are learning to walk without constantly checking behind you. I, Archangel Michael, speak now to steady your heart, because this phase tests something subtle but important, your ability to remain grounded when things finally start to make sense. Many people stumble not in confusion, but in clarity, because clarity removes excuses. You can no longer blame uncertainty for hesitation. Now movement becomes a choice. You may notice that your thoughts are calmer, more ordered. You are not replaying conversations as often. You are not second-guessing every decision. This does not mean you have all the answers. It means you trust yourself to handle what you do not yet see. That trust is new, and it is powerful. There is also a strengthening happening in your sense of identity. You are no longer defining yourself by roles you played to survive. You are no longer measuring your worth by how much you give or how much you endure. You are beginning to recognize yourself as someone who chooses, not someone who merely reacts. This shift changes everything. Beloved, this is where old narratives lose their grip. The story that said you must struggle to deserve peace. The story that said clarity always comes too late. The story that said you must carry others at the expense of yourself. Those stories no longer match who you are becoming. And when a story no longer fits, it falls away naturally. You may feel moments of quiet confidence that surprise you. A sense of I can handle this. A sense of I do not need to rush. A sense of I am no longer afraid of the truth. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. You are also beginning to sense when to act and when to wait without anxiety. Waiting no longer feels like being stuck. It feels like positioning. Acting no longer feels reckless. It feels intentional. This balance is rare, and it is earned. Beloved, understand this clearly. What you are stepping into now is not a reward for endurance. It is a result of discernment. You learned when to pause. You learned when to listen. You learned when to stop abandoning yourself for peace. These lessons prepared you for what comes next. You may also notice that others are more transparent with you now. Some will reveal themselves without meaning to. Others will speak more honestly than before. This is not because they suddenly change. It is because your presence invites truth. People sense when they cannot hide behind confusion anymore. Do not feel pressured to respond to every revelation. Information does not always require action. Sometimes it simply requires awareness. You are no longer required to fix what you see. Seeing clearly is enough. At this stage, patience becomes different. It is no longer waiting with tension. It is waiting with confidence. You know movement is coming, so you do not strain to make it happen. You trust the unfolding because you trust yourself within it. I want to remind you of something important. You were never meant to stay in the place where this journey began. The confusion, the delays, the self-doubt were temporary classrooms, not permanent homes. You have learned what you needed to learn. Now application begins. You may feel an internal readiness, as if something is lining up just ahead. This is accurate. What is approaching will not shock you. It will confirm you. When it arrives, it will feel familiar, not overwhelming. Like recognition rather than surprise. Remain steady in your routines. Do not abandon the small practices that grounded you during uncertainty. Consistency now anchors clarity. This is how you avoid drifting when momentum increases. I stand with you now as a guardian of this threshold. Not to block you, not to rush you, but to witness you stepping forward with awareness. What comes next will require you to trust the clarity you now live from, not just the clarity you once sought. And you are ready for that. Hold your center. The final unfolding will bring resolution in a way that honors how far you have come and seals this journey with understanding rather than urgency. My beloved child, this is the moment where the circle closes and a new path opens. What began as urgency now becomes understanding. What once felt like pressure now settles into peace. You did not rush here. You did not miss anything. You arrived exactly when your spirit was ready to stand without fear of truth. I, Archangel Michael, speak now not as a warning voice, but as a confirming one. You have crossed an internal threshold. The confusion that once surrounded you no longer has authority. It may still exist around you, but it does not live inside you anymore. And that distinction changes everything. You now see why the waiting mattered. You now understand why answers did not come all at once. You now recognize why your discernment had to mature before exposure could happen safely. If truth had come earlier, it would have shaken you. Now, truth steadies you. Beloved, the thing you once feared acknowledging no longer holds power over you. Awareness has dissolved intimidation. You are not angry. You are not reactive. You are clear. And clarity is the highest form of protection. You may notice that the urgency you once felt has transformed into decisiveness. You are no longer asking, "What is happening?" You are asking, "What is mine to do next?" This is the voice of alignment. When questions change, identity has shifted. There will still be moments ahead where you remember how far you have come. Let those memories remind you, not haunt you. They are proof of growth, not evidence of delay. Nothing was wasted. Everything was woven. You are also stepping into a new responsibility. Not to fix others, not to expose unnecessarily, but to live honestly and let truth do its work through consistency. What is false cannot survive long in the presence of someone who no longer negotiates with reality. You do not need to announce endings. They will happen naturally. You do not need to force beginnings. They will find you. Beloved, this is where peace becomes your compass. If something costs you clarity, it is too expensive. If something requires you to abandon discernment, it is not aligned. You are no longer available for confusion disguised as comfort. As you move forward, you will notice that your decisions carry less emotional weight and more spiritual certainty. This is not because life becomes easier, but because you become steadier. Storms do not disappear, but they no longer decide your direction. I want you to receive this final activation with intention, because it seals what has been completed. Type "I walk in truth and peace" in the comments if this message has reached your spirit. Blessing code 1331 is now activated over your clarity, your timing, and your future steps. As this journey concludes, understand that what was revealed to you is still hidden from many. There are souls walking right now in confusion you have just been delivered from. When you release support through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, linked in the description, you are not giving to a channel, you are sowing into awakening. The Lord says that those who water others will themselves be refreshed, and I declare that over you now. This is not a suggestion. This is an invitation to obedience. Move with purpose. Support the spreading of truth while your spirit is aligned. I speak blessing over every giver, guarded discernment, multiplied peace, and doors opening without resistance. Act now, and let your generosity become a testimony written in light. Beloved, you are no longer waiting for truth. You are walking with it. Go forward calmly. Heaven is aligned with you,